Okay, boys, we back. It's Golden What Ifs. How's everyone doing? I hope it's well. This is a brand new My Hero Academia What If. I know a lot of y'all have been calling for it. A lot of y'all wanted more My Hero Academia stuff. I decided I was going to come back with this. This is something I've been cooking up, brewing for a while. Let's just say, don't take it super seriously. It's more of a fun version of it. If you all know WWE, y'all will enjoy it really heavily. If you enjoy funny slash kind of jokey type of what ifs, you'll also enjoy it. If you just want to see a crazy story and super in-depth story, that's probably not what you're gonna get out of this, but I promise it'll still be entertaining. Stick around. Watch it. This is What If Deku Had a Wrestling Quirk Part 1. And as always, if you enjoy, show some love. Leave a like, leave a sub, leave a comment down below, all that good stuff. And I'm not going to waste that much more of your time. Let's get right into the what if. Let's get it. Izuku Midoriya, at the age of 4, would learn of his brand new quirk. It's a quirk that even many doctors didn't really understand. They didn't understand why his genetics and his acting and everything around his body reacted in such a way to basically make him strong, make him powerful. But it seems as if there's a way for him to be even stronger. There's different ways, as if acting of this as a different role play, or kind of acting as a different person, makes him an insane amount stronger. No one's really sure why it has anything to do with anything, but an American doctor would eventually approach and would say that this reminds him, his strength, his acting, his roleplay reminds him of something they have in the States and even have in Japan a good little bit, but mostly in the States or in America. That would be WWE, or, well, wrestling. Not the wrestling where you're, actually grappling and you're properly, trying to take people down. This wrestling is more, well, acting, creative, and it's more of a sports entertainment. Now, this is something the doctors in Japan would be very interested in, but Izuku wouldn't get much answers. All he would know is that his quirk would be deemed as a wrestling quirk. When he would go back home, he would begin looking up this wrestling from Japan, from WWE, from anywhere you can think of, and he begins to try to learn and kind of recognize how to utilize some of these people's techniques. And soon, very, very soon, he becomes extremely popular with the kids at his school. Even Bakugo fawns over him. The fact that he can do such amazing things, pick people up, throw them, act like he's extremely strong, tackle, spear, anything. They all think that he's some crazy jock, and frankly he is. He is the alpha male of their species, and he proves that to everybody. He stands there, muscles out, shredded. Izuku Midoriya is the one and only wrestling hero, or that's what he's going to be. He tells Bakugo that, and even tells Bakugo that he'll carry him all the way up to becoming a strong hero just like him. Bakugo believes that he could be a hero too, but it's pretty obvious that Izuku is so much cooler and more awesome than him that he decides to kind of follow along with Izuku, and many people start believing that he's some hype man, you could say. But it's not that simple. It's not like he's just some hype man. He is the advocate. He's the advocate for Izuku Midoriya. Now, that doesn't really matter too much, at least at this moment, but as they grow older, it would matter a lot more. Izuku would become accustomed to Bakugo speaking for him. Bakugo would become kind of that person that would tell people to get the hell away from him, or you gotta pay more money if you want to be in the face of the one and only, the beast incarnate, Izuku Midoriya. Izuku would wear around a belt, yeah, a WWE strap, a belt around his waist, and it would be proof that he is the champ. No one else is the champ, he's the only champ, and he's the best to ever do it. He would gain a massive ego, but frankly, it would be kind of warranted. Izuku is extremely strong. So much to the fact that he could toss people off of buildings and send them flying across neighborhoods. He could do whatever he wanted. He could topple buildings by throwing a person into that said building. He could do such crazy things, especially with his quirk. His quirk derives off of how loud people love him, how much they hate him, the chants, anything you can think of. All of it is derived off of that. His strength is, his power is, all he can do is get stronger. And if they want a fight, Izuku is always down for a fight. And even at a young age, him and Bakugo would go to kind of these training sessions that these heroes would put up, and immediately Bakugo would always be the person to walk up in front of everybody and point toward Izuku, saying that nobody speaks to him, and Bakugo would begin saying his now famous phrase: "Ladies and gentlemen, I am Katsuki Bakugo, the advocate for the reigning, defending, undisputed WWE champion, Izuku Midoriya." And he would intro Izuku in every single time, no matter what. He would intro him in, making sure that the beast incarnate, the WWE champion, never walks in without the crowd knowing exactly who he is. Izuku would grow a massive ego, even greater than the one I said before. At the age of about 13 or 14, this would continue on. I mean, Izuku, he would be famous. Every single hero, or most heroes that run these training camps, smaller heroes of course, would know exactly who he is. Izuku was someone that would dominate all the training, from robots to fighting heroes. It didn't matter. He would bring them to the one and only Suplex City. And he would make sure all of them know who's truly the best, and make sure that all of them acknowledge him. He makes sure that they all know who is truly the alpha and the big dog in front of them all. He is going to be the future #1 hero, and frankly, in his books, he's already that specifically. But of course, he still has to go through some schooling. Kind of lame, but he still does. But really, he just kind of trucked through school. He wasn't the best student, but he wasn't the worst student. Bakugo kind of did a ton of the studying, helping him out, because Bakugo is extremely smart. Even though Bakugo does want to be his own hero, he's kind of been put into this weird spotlight, and frankly, oddly enough, a weird fear of Izuku. I mean, who wouldn't fear Izuku if he will, at any moment toss you off a building by F5ing you? But that's beyond the point. Nobody wants to go to Suplex City. So Bakugo, he's pretty tame around Izuku, and they finish up school together. The very last day of school, the teacher introduces this whole oh, we got to find out what your job is or what you're going to do, this career aptitude test. But of course, he throws all the papers and every one of the papers into the sky. He says they all want to go the hero route, and it's pretty obvious. So he's going to not worry about that. And he hopes that all of them could be heroes. And Izuku, and also Bakugo, of course, would be ones going for UA. And Izuku would definitely make this clear that they are going to UA together. And he's pretty excited about it. I mean, he knows that Bakugo will get in. He likes denying it, but Bakugo is strong enough to, get past these losers that he's going to have to get through. But himself, he's going to score so many points on that entrance exam, it's going to be absolutely ridiculous. He looks at Bakugo and tells him that he's going to help him study for that entrance exam test because he wants to ace that shit. And Bakugo kind of trembles a little bit, but then shakes his head yes. And everybody starts laughing, but Izuku slams his hand on the desk, breaking it in half, saying that they better stop laughing or else. And he points at his shirt as Bakugo reads it to himself, Suplex City. Of course, everyone just shuts up because they don't want to go to Suplex City, so they all just kind of sit in silence until the very end of the day. Izuku and Bakugo would go their separate ways, and Izuku would tell him that they're going to be training together very, very soon. He wants to make sure not only Bakugo is ready, but he's ready as well, and also, he is his advocate, so he's going to have to introduce him for the entrance exam. they'll figure it out. They'll have to tell these people that it needs to happen this way. And if anything, he'll get a little recording. You know, maybe a little recorder for everyone to hear the beautiful introduction of the Beast Incarnate, the ultimate beast, Izuku Midoriya. After some more time would pass, Izuku would leave Bakugo to his devices as he heads home. Izuku continues to write in his journal just different wrestling moves he could be utilizing and so on and so forth. But as he goes under this bridge, he actually hears something. He's not exactly sure what this is, but as he hears it, well, he turns around and the manhole cover behind him would burst open. The manhole cover would out of nowhere just burst and a giant sludge-like villain would come out of it. Izuku would be kind of taken back, but he would stand there and be looking around, and the sludge villain would immediately say that he needs his body. Izuku would shake his head and say that that is the worst line he's ever heard in his life, and just because he can't take his ass to Suplex City doesn't mean that the sludge villain isn't about to get a beating. And the sludge villain would say that it's not like the kid can do anything. Look at him. There's just no way. The sludge villain charges at him, saying that he's going to take his body and he's going to utilize it for his own ordeals. And as he charges at him, Izuku would charge right back, and he would immediately shoulder tackle into the sludge villain. The sludge villain would think that the kid is an idiot, but the shoulder tackle would, for some reason, kind of mildly solidify the sludge villain and would even kind of bounce him back just a little bit. But Izuku would just go straight through him. He wouldn't actually be stuck on one side. Going straight through him, he would run back and he would bounce off the wall as he shoulder tackles him over and over again. Eventually, the sludge villain is on the ground, and as his little eyeballs look toward the ceiling, Izuku would put up one hand. He would wave his hand in front of his face and say, "You can't see me," as he gives the sludge villain a 5-knuckle shuffle. As he does this, the sludge villain would be completely and utterly destroyed. The 5-knuckle shuffle more or less destroyed him into multiple pieces, and as Izuku stands over him and tells him that he stood no chance in the first place, well, the one and only All Might would come out of the sewer as well. All Might would come out of nowhere, and he would immediately say that the sludge villain, he won't get away, but for some reason, the sludge villain's already down for the count. Izuku would see All Might and would be excited. The first time he's actually excited about seeing another hero. Izuku would say that he's a big fan, and he did the job that he needed to do for All Might, so here's a couple bottles. He can clean this up himself. All Might says that he likes his swagger. I mean, it reminds him of a younger version of himself, in which Izuku says that, well, he'll soon find out that he's far better than a younger version than All Might, and even better than the version of All Might he's looking at now. All Might smirks a little bit and says that if he's strong enough to defeat the sludge villain, and it seems like without even breaking a sweat, there's no doubt in his mind that there are levels to what Izuku can truly do. He would capture the sludge villain entirely and put him in the bottles. As he does this, he would question Izuku. "So, what quirk do you have, kid?" Izuku would explain that his quirk is a wrestling quirk, as if he's ever heard of WWE, maybe the Japan wrestling scene, and it's all based around that. And he's confused to hear this, but when he breaks it down, he thinks that this is pretty OP, that this might be pretty strong. He says that he assumes he's trying out for UA, and of course Izuku would say he is. Of course he is. And All Might would say that if he can beat someone like the sludge villain, he'll have no trouble going through the entrance exam. But how about this? They do some training. Him, Izuku, they'll get some training in, and he'll train the kid, and he'll have his recommendation, in which Izuku kind of shakes his head and says he'll take the training, but he needs to add their advocate, or his advocate, Katsuki Bakugo. And he says that's the last time he'll say his name in that way, but his advocate, he's pretty strong, but he'll be mostly working with Izuku himself. And All Might would be confused. What do you mean by advocate? And Izuku says that he doesn't speak for himself that often, but since he's talking to the one and only All Might, he is speaking. All Might would kind of laugh at this and think that this kid, he has a pretty big ego, but I mean, if he's as good as he says he is, I mean, it makes sense. All Might would then have the villain strapped to his legs, and he would be good to go. All Might would tell Izuku to meet him at Dagobah Beach, and that they'll be working together very, very soon. Izuku agrees and says that he'll be there with his advocates, and that they'll get some training in. Some more time would pass, and Izuku would call Bakugo, telling him to meet him at Dagobah Beach in about 2 hours. He would ask why, but Izuku would already hung up. As he leaves for the beach to get there a little bit earlier, eventually Bakugo would arrive, and All Might would as well. Bakugo would be confused. How did he even do this? What kind of strings did he pull? But eventually it would be explained that All Might actually ran into him after Izuku beat a villain, and a very lethal villain at that. But Bakugo would be excited. Now he gets to train with the one and only All Might. Now this is something that he was looking forward to. All Might would watch as the two would train, and they would work together, train together. Izuku would even slightly spar All Might, but All Might would obviously kind of try to take it easy on him. But it would be obvious that Izuku's strength is all involved in a multitude of ways. Not only in the fact of the people cheering for him, his moves, but also just whatever type of role he's portraying. Right now, it seems like he's more of a heel, someone that is more deemed as someone that nobody would necessarily cheer on. But he feeds off the boos just as much as he feeds off the cheers. So when he fights All Might and he gets him up for an F5, All Might would yield. All Might would say that it's over, he doesn't need to go any longer. He would put All Might down, and All Might would claim that he was holding back, but it's obvious to All Might that, well, this kid is on a brand new level, and that this kid was about to put him down. And that's all fine and dandy for Izuku. Izuku says that he knows his limitations, he knows how strong he is, and he knows what he's capable of, and he can get even stronger. But they need someone like All Might, at least right now, until Izuku can legally take over his role. All Might would smirk at this, thinking that this kid really could become the next version of him, if not extremely better than him. But does he even need his quirk? Maybe they should give it to someone else like Mirio. But that's something he'll think about later on. They continue training more and more, and he even has thoughts of the idea of maybe giving Bakugo one for all. But the issue with that is it seems like Bakugo is kind of on the back burner, or a little sidekick to Izuku. I mean, like Izuku said, he is the advocate. So he decides to hold off on that idea and probably deal with a more confirmed version of himself, or a more confirmed person that could use one for all. With all that said, the training would be over, 10 months would pass, and Izuku wouldn't even have to actually take the quirk, or the UA entrance exam, and it's actually, he's just allowed in entirely. He doesn't have to even worry about it. He watches as more or less everything goes on. He actually watches the UA entrance exam, watching Bakugo, his advocate, absolutely obliterate everything. More and more. Bakugo seems to be on a different level right now, but obviously Izuku is not even close. He's so much above him, but he still compliments Bakugo, at least without him knowing, and All Might stands next to him as Izuku stands there with his hands behind his back. And All Might asks why he's doing that, doesn't it feel uncomfortable? But Izuku says it's just kind of one of the poses he takes on. He has to immerse himself in this world. All Might doesn't understand. The more immersed Izuku is, the more he truly believes he is a wrestler and that this is his life, is the more he's able to actually obtain true strength. And he is the ring general. And All Might is confused as hell, and everyone else kind of laughs at this, but as Izuku turns around, they stop laughing. They shut up real quick, because it's obvious that the aura around Izuku is terrifying. And frankly, that makes sense. And of course, as he walks out, everyone just stares at him, and they ask All Might who was he and who is he, and he says that he's Izuku Midoriya. And as Izuku Midoriya walks out, you can hear a faded "yeah" in the background, as if Izuku's responding out of pure instinct as he heard his name spoken in a certain way. And this would kind of make everyone laugh once again, but they would all stop. It's as if Izuku's still here, still terrifying them. The idea that he could be around the corner, that he could destroy them out of nowhere. And this would all be implanted in their brains. Even teachers, some teachers there. Aizawa not really included in this because Aizawa is an absolute maniac and probably drunk on the job the mass majority of the time. But of course, Izuku wouldn't terrify him to a certain extent. But everyone knows that this might be basically the protege of All Might, at least to a large extent. And after it's all said and done, Izuku meets up with Bakugo one last time as he puts his own hands behind his back as Bakugo does the same. He tells Bakugo that he did a pretty good job. Seems like he got number 1. And Bakugo asks how he knows that, but Izuku says that he just does. They walk out and they leave. And Izuku says that that's all that needs to be done and that's all that needs to be said. It's now time for them to prepare for their arrival to their home ground, their stomping ground, their territory. Because everybody in UA High School and everybody in Hero Society will acknowledge him. Izuku and Bakugo would continue their training until their letters would arrive. Izuku, of course, already knows he's in. Bakugo eventually getting that letter. And a couple days before going into UA, they know that they have to get some things done. And they know that training, getting prepared, and everything else is good. And all of that is said and done. Izuku would arrive at UA for the first time with Katsuki Bakugo. And as he walks into the classroom, everybody kind of says hi. They try to be friendly and so on. But of course, Bakugo would tell them all to be quiet, to not talk to the beast incarnate. You must talk to the advocate. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Katsuki Bakugo, the advocate for the beast incarnate, the WWE champion, Izuku Midoriya. And everybody would stand there and they would think, what the hell is wrong with these people? What's going on? And some of them would even begin to laugh, but Izuku would stare at the people who begin laughing and they immediately shut up. Obviously, they're completely terrified. He just put the fear of God in them. On top of that, though, some girls think that Izuku is hot as hell. I mean, come on, my boy's shredded. He's ripped. They're all like fawning over him as if he's some celebrity. And to an extent, he basically is. He is the definition of the peak alpha man in society. That's what Izuku Midoriya is. That's what the true beast incarnate is. Izuku would sit down and he would prepare and he would just wait for the teacher to finally arrive. All he can think about currently is going on with whatever is going to happen. He wants to go on with true hero training. He wants to suplex some people. He wants to do some crazy things. But as he's waiting, finally, Aizawa would arrive. Aizawa would say that everybody needs to follow him and go outside, get on their PE uniforms or whatever they want to wear that is comfortable. Izuku would walk outside with the belt strapped around his waist, his WWE belt. And Aizawa would say, doesn't he want to take that off? But Izuku shakes his head that the belt stays on. The belt will always stay on. And after everyone is all ready to go and everyone is ready for their now Quirk assessment, they learn what it will entail. It starts with throwing a ball, and frankly, Izuku stands there waiting, and Bakugo is actually called up first. He is technically the one that got number 1 in the Quirk in the UA entrance exam, so it does make sense that he would go up first. But Bakugo would step up, but then stop and say that he actually should not go up. That the tribal chief, the beast incarnate, and the one himself should go up first. Izuku Midoriya. And Aizawa would tell the kid to more or less stop fucking hyping up this kid right here. Stop making him seem like he's so good. And Izuku would stand up and walk forward and say that if he doesn't think he's so good, then maybe they should spar. Maybe this little Quirk assessment isn't the right way to see what they're capable of. And Aizawa would look at him and say, give him 5 minutes. And he says, after all of these kids are done with their quirk assessment, they'll spar a little bit. How about that? And Izuku says that let's put some stakes on it. How about it? If he loses, if Izuku loses, that he could be expelled. And if Aizawa doesn't want to do that, then he'll do whatever he wants in terms of he could grade papers for him. He could make sure and run classes for him. He doesn't care. He'll do whatever it needs to be done. Aizawa says that sounds good. If he does lose, he's expelled. But, on the off chance he somehow wins, let's see. He doesn't have to do any work. Not for the entire year. Aizawa would think that he's that confident that there's no way and that he would lose. But during this quirk assessment, let's just say All Might would try to tell Aizawa that this is not the best idea. This kid, he's on a different level. Of course, though, Aizawa would think that this is a bit of an understatement. I mean, not much information, though, is told to Aizawa. All Might just says that he's really strong. He doesn't say that, well, Izuku was on the bridge of defeating him with one F5. But after the quirk assessment is all filled out, all done, everybody finishes up, it's now time for the spar between Shota Aizawa and Izuku Midoriya. And just as Aizawa thinks this is going to be a normal spar, Izuku would watch as the one and only Katsuki Bakugo would put a radio player out or a boombox, and as he clicks it, the music begins to play. Obviously, I can't play the music because, that's copyright, but yeah. So he walks out to the Beast Incarnate music as the music plays louder and louder. And everybody stands there in complete shock. It's as if this guy's straight up a movie character, as if he is the main character. He really thinks he's the main protagonist, and yeah, he kind of is. He would walk out, and as he steps up to the little ledge where they're gonna be sparring at, he jumps up and slams his feet, and out of nowhere, fire would come ripping out of the ground and would begin to kind of like act as pyrotechnics. And let's just say Aizawa is confused as hell. Izuku would tell him that this is already over, and Aizawa asks if he's ready, but Izuku puts one finger up as he watches as Katsuki Bakugo introduces him as the reigning, defending, undisputed WWE champion, Izuku Midoriya. And as the fight would immediately lift off, let's just say Aizawa didn't know what he was getting into, because immediately Izuku would get a hold of his back and immediately bring him to Suplex City. And Aizawa would begin getting flipped on his back over and over again. Excuse me, and Bakugo would begin telling everybody around to start chanting Suplex City, Suplex City. And as they chant that, the suplexes begin to get harder, faster, stronger. And Aizawa begins to get tossed around like an absolute ragdoll. And Izuku would watch as Aizawa struggles to his feet. Aizawa trying to cancel his quirk, but it's not that simple. His quirk doesn't work like that. He would get Aizawa up for an F5, and Izuku would scream toward the crowd as he would lift him up and throw him across his body, basically. And he would land the F5. Izuku would pin Aizawa as Bakugo would run in and give a 3 count, 1, 2, 3. And Izuku's music would play once again. You know the music. If you're a real fan of WWE, you know the music. So the music would play, and Aizawa would be hurting. Honestly, super, super bad. But it was kind of odd. It was right after that, Aizawa would stop hurting. It was as if Izuku decided to just, let the rules apply to Aizawa. It's as if the fake fakeness and kind of the selling version of it, he can actually control the fact if it hurts that badly or not. Izuku, yes, the suplexes would hurt no matter what, but the aftermath, the true pain that the viewer sees isn't actually there if he so chooses it to be so. It's kind of like pulling your punches. But if he decides to fight a villain, he can decide not to pull his punches at all. He can make it so that the pain lasts for as long as if he did it normally on concrete. But this time around, Aizawa gets a couple bruises and feels a good bit sore, but he's able to stand up and he's able to kind of brush it off to a certain extent. Aizawa says that a deal's a deal, and he won't have to do any work, but it's all good. He assumes that the kid is pretty smart, and he'll make his little advocate over there help him with his work anyways, in terms of, well, making sure that he's not a complete idiot by the time he finishes school in UA. Izuku kind of smirks and nods and says that it seems as if he truly is the alpha male of their species, and not even a pro hero like Eraserhead can take him down. He looks at Eraserhead though and says, "Don't worry, his ego is not going to let him put his guard down. He's just here for dominance. He's here to wreck everybody and leave." And Aizawa would kind of like this idea. He would nod his head and say that he kind of likes the kid. He's pretty interesting. With all that said though, the first day of UA is finally over, and Izuku is ready for the very next. Because the very next, they're going to have All Might as their trainer, or as their kind of show. He's going to show them some hero training, but this hero training is going to be a little bit different, because as Izuku always is, and as he always does, he might be challenging some more people, and maybe even his entire class, to a, you could say, 20 versus 1 handicap. But that's for the next part of What If Deku Had a Wrestling Quirk. And if you enjoyed, show some love, leave a like, leave a sub, leave a comment down below, all that good stuff. And yeah, I hope y'all enjoyed. Like I said, this is obviously a little bit different, more funny, more jokey. Don't take it too seriously. If y'all like WWE, you'll probably like this. Me and my buddies had a good time talking about basically what this story would look like and like what would happen. So yeah, like I said, hope y'all enjoyed. Hope all y'all have an amazing day. Later.